we are ready to move forward with the regular session of our meeting tonight. So the next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would, please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our October 12th and October 26th meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Bakshi?
Yes.
5-0.
All right, item number 5, superintendent's presentations. Jonathan?
Well, it is my great pleasure to talk about a crew of athletes that are behind me. It's the only time in this probably world I'll be able to say they're behind me because they're so fast. Typically, I'm chasing them all over the course to cheer them on. Our boys cross country team has done a remarkable job again this year. They always have a tradition of excellence with Coach Tom Rapp and his crew. And so I want to invite Tom Rapp and whoever else you would like to come up with you to the podium to share a little bit about your state championship and also maybe some of the story along the way so that we can celebrate you guys together. So let's welcome them to the podium. Thanks.
Well, thank you for the chance to join this evening. Thank you guys for doing what you did so that we get to be here this evening because it's what they did that counts. And thank you to the school board, to Mason City Schools, to Mr. Dodd, Mr. Stemple, and all his crew that make what we do possible. We greatly appreciate that. Cross country looks like an individual sport. If you ever watch it, they shoot a gun off, a bunch of kids go running across through a park, through fields and on trails and up and down through creeks and various other places. But it really is a team sport, and we approach it that way. And a team score is kept in a championship race. The top 7 get to run in the race. They'll score your top 5 based on where you finish. And each athlete finishes in those top 5. That's where your score for your team is. It's kind of like golf. You want a low score. And what happens with many teams is they lack the depth to be really a complete team because they score all five of your top 7 runners in the race. And if you have 4 really good runners, but your 5th runner's back in 223rd place, you're in a bad spot as a team. That is the key to this team's success. Is we had some guys that were very competitive in the front, but we also had a very strong team aspect, and we look at it that way. These guys work together in practice. They work together in races. They run together. They know how to push each other. They know how to encourage one another when one's faltering a little bit, and the next guy comes up next to them and pushes them along. And they've done a great job in that. This is Aiden Amshoff. Aiden is was one of our team captains, a senior. And he made all state. If you finish in the top 30 in the state meet race, you are designated as all state, as is Alex Daracel. Alex, would you wave? He is also all state. What I also like to brag about these guys is they are great in the classroom. To be all academic Ohio, you have to finish, you have to run in the state meet race. So you have to be selected in the top 7 on your team, but you also have to have a 3.5 unweighted GPA in order to qualify for that. And for the first time in our history, all 7 of our guys who ran that race that day qualified and made academic All-Ohio. So they're not only fast, they're really good in the classroom as well. They live out our mission statement, which basically refers to the fact that we are hoping to develop all our athletes, and that's all 99 on our roster. This is just the cream of the crop. There are 99 boys that ran on our cross-country team this year, and we seek to develop each one of them into a team-oriented, hard-working, and tough racing athlete, because we believe that if they can learn to put others first, if they learn to have a great work ethic, and if they learn to perform under pressure, that'll carry them far beyond just their cross-country careers and be able to do many other great things during their lives. we had a great season. We went undefeated for the first time ever. We beat rivals of various nature along the way, which we enjoyed. We won big invitationals, and these guys just put it together well. I'd like to let Aiden just share just a minute, a little bit about the journey of how we got to where we got to this year. Go ahead.
All right, so I guess I'll start out. 2020, we didn't have that great of a year. A lot of things went wrong. We finished 10th in the state. We had a lot of guys got hurt. Coach Rapp had some personal issues, some family issues, and we really just used that as motivation. We wanted to come out this year and be the best in the state, and we knew if we trusted in our coaching, trusted Coach Rapp, trusted Coach Pitcher, that we could get there. And then we also had to stay healthy, and then mainly we had to believe in each other. We had to push for each other, and we had to run for each other. And then that's what got us there. And then there was no better feeling than being out on the podium with my teammates, and right before finding out that we officially won, getting to run over by my teammates and getting to celebrate with them. There's no better feeling than that. And I guess that's all I got.
Aiden is normally quite reserved, but to me, though, you know how you just have sometimes snapshots in your mind. The snapshot in my mind of that day is when it was finally official, and he went over and jumped into a pile of our other guys, and they all went nuts together. That was very special to see. Let me introduce them. Back in the back row is my right-hand man. That is Coach Tim Pitcher, and he does a great job of just helping, everything an assistant coach does, basically keeping the head coach in line. On the back row there is one of our alternates. We had several alternates, which the alternates on this team would have been, and I'm not exaggerating, it's not hyperbole, they would have been scorers on any other team in the state of Ohio. Here they couldn't quite crack the top 7, but certainly better than most of the top runners. In many cases, they would be the top runner on most teams in the state of Ohio. This is James Maraska. He is a junior, so we look forward to having him back. And then we have Aiden Markic. He is a junior, and he really stepped up big for us this year. Then we have, again, All-State Alex Daracel, a senior for us. On the middle row here is Keith Neuberger. Keith is a junior, battled injuries for 2 years, finally got rid of the injuries and got really fast, real fast. Another one of our senior, and he was one of our alternates as well, Colin Campbell. Next to him is Isaac Schachleiter, and Isaac's a junior, so he'll be back and racing well for us next year. Another one of our alternates is Braden Fetters, and Braden is a junior, so we get him back next year. You already met Aiden Amshoff. And then we have Max Leal, who's a sophomore, really stepped it up big as a sophomore to be our 5th man. And as I mentioned earlier, your number 5 guy is the key guy, because there's a whole lot of coaches out there that got 4 good runners. If you don't have a 5th, your team's not really all that good. And so he stepped up as a sophomore. 2 guys who couldn't be with us tonight, Brady Messer, and he was another one of our captains, did a great job. And then Jerry Zhu, who is a sophomore, he was our number 4 runner at the state meet. Jerry is exhibiting his many talents right now at the Wind Symphony concert. So as I understand, he might be able to play his clarinet as well as he runs. So he's there this evening with that. So again, it was just a privilege. I am truly blessed to get to coach these guys. I'm truly blessed by God to actually be here in Mason City Schools. It is an honor for me to teach here. It's an honor for me to coach here. And these guys are the best guys that you ever want to meet. They're great human beings. Thanks to their parents, who just kind of make it easy for us to just sort of take the character that they've already developed and just push it along a little bit further. So, thank you.
Coach, before you take a seat, we might have some questions or comments for you at the podium here.
Almost.
I think we heard an allusion to last year being a tough year for you all, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot or shed light on some of that stuff if it's not something they want to share. But could you elaborate a little bit? I read an article about some of those challenges and couldn't believe all that stuff happened in one season for you guys.
I had one coach from one of our rival schools tell me that we used up all our bad karma for the next 10 years last year. I'm not real sure I believe in karma, but things did work out quite well for us. We had numerous athletes who came down with strange injuries, strange medical issues. We had one with one of our top guys that we were expecting to come back, wound up actually with lesions on his brain, and at a time he was in the hospital, and we thought his life was in danger. And kind of ended his running career, but we're glad that he's doing well, and he's off at Ohio State now as a student there. Some injuries, some guys that were quarantined, and they tried to keep doing their running during quarantine, but it's never the same. As I mentioned, these guys feed off each other. It's never the same when you have to do it by yourself. Personally, for me, I lost both my parents last fall, and so that was a real struggle for me, and how these guys stepped up to support me during that time was tremendous. So we battled through those things, and as Aiden said, yeah, we had a bad year last year. We got 10th in the state. And honestly, for us, that is a rough year. We pretty much did that with kind of a B-plus team. A lot of our guys struggled. We even had guys in that race struggle with injuries. So it was just a lot of weird, strange stuff, and I'm sure COVID had something to do with some of it anyway. But it was a very challenging year. Most teams in Ohio would say, hey, we had a great year. We finished 10th in the state. We'd like to think our bar's a little higher than that, right, guys?
And I heard you mention, this was a team that had some alternates that would have scored on other teams. Do you keep track as far as all-time low scores up at the state meet and how this group, these guys were just amazing.
Yeah, we crunch numbers all the time. Just whatever numbers make us look good, that's the numbers that we crunch. We didn't necessarily have an all-time low score. In fact, we've had two teams that have scored lower but wound up runners-up due to the competitiveness of other teams. But one of the things we did have that I thought was quite interesting is, like I said, you got to have 5 guys. Well, our 6th guy who didn't finish in the scoring, if our first guy had gotten injured and not finished the race, our 6th guy still would have stepped up, and we won by 38 points. We still would have won by 15 or 20. So that's how much depth we had on that team. That we could have lost, our number 1 guy and still won.
It's amazing.
Maybe kind of to that point, I wanted to share that it's become sort of a new tradition as we honor state championship teams here in Mason, that somebody comes up and gives a play-by-play and helps us to feel what it must have felt like to be there that day. And it's really exciting and funny anecdotes because the energy is just intense, because we're waiting to hear, like, what was the next thing? It was so tense. Well, I have some feedback to give you this is not the most exciting presentation of the events that day, but that is because there was no drama, there was no intensity about waiting the results, because you guys went wire to wire, and that's just incredible. So just congratulations for a fantastic season and a great state meet. But I also wanted to just say that often I reflect on when student athletes or students who achieve great things come and share with us. I tell you, my favorite thing about what is always every single time shared with us, of course, it's a great memory, but what you share that stands out is being with your teammates. And that's the experience that will last your lifetime. And it's just so impressive that as young men, you're able to reflect on that, not only reflect on that, but to share that with a room full of adults. So we thank you for that. And thank you for the example that you set. Congratulations.
A quick question. How many of you guys will be back next year? You're not graduating in the team, so.
Me too, because there's a whole lot of good guys still coming.
There's a lot of good guys coming back, and good luck to you seniors. Are you going to run in college? Is that the plan, or?
Some are looking at that. Anywhere from running on their own, running with a college club, or running with the varsity team on the. Some of them are in the middle of the recruiting process right now.
Nice. Well, congratulations to you all. Well done.
I'd like to ask a question. How many of you were runners before you got to high school, before you this experience?
So let me point out that where that comes from is Coach Wheeler, Coach Horning, and Coach Kincaid at the middle school program. Our middle school program is phenomenal, and he builds the love of the sport into them. All I got to do is just kind of push them forward a little bit. So, the middle school program really feeds that, and every one of those guys ran in the middle school program.
That's awesome.
Well, there are 99 that's saying something about your ability to keep that love going, so we appreciate that.
And I think the middle school program, but also the parents and their commitment, anytime you achieve at this kind of high level, takes parents' involvement in training and early mornings and, you know, dealing through adversity. So maybe a quick round of applause for the parents that I know are here as well. And then, gentlemen, I also like to say that it's very clear how you connect to each other and how you've turned that into a special result in terms of a state championship. But I also want you to know how much of a bar and how high you set the bar for your classmates who aren't in cross country and other activities. You know, when you achieve the kind of level that you do, get a lot of fanfare and a lot of, you know, trophies and celebrations. But the most important thing for the long run is the impact you have on the culture of the high school and your classmates. They're all looking at you. They all are impressed by your accomplishments and your tenacity and your commitment, even if they don't tell you. So that's why I tell you, because they'll tell you later maybe in life, but today they just might be looking across the hall and being impressed. And we appreciate that. It's part of the culture around here that we hope to foster. So well done, congratulations, and maybe one more round of applause.
Thank you, Coach. We have one other surprise item here. If we can get everybody to file down. Got some prizes
Swag.
for you.
Some state championship swag. Congratulations.
I'll just
So you're a sophomore, huh? So we'll see you in the next couple of years. Congratulations. Good job.
congratulations.
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 Congratulations. Senior? Where are you going? Do you know? No idea. That's okay.
Congratulations. Like these quarters that you guys got here.
Congratulations.
Terrible lining up for pictures.
Coach.
Good job. Nice to
Everything you do,
Coach.
And I think these gentlemen are a little bit taller than our girls' tennis team was last time, so I might have the board come out.
Only a little bit.
Sorry, man.
Real tight.
Or maybe it's size. Let's get on that. Let's, yes, that works.
Trying really hard not to get this picture.
There you go. Thank you. Congratulations.
All right. Well, thank you again for our cross-country team, and we have another opportunity to honor a team and a teammate. And so we want to press pause for a moment, if we could, and Matt's going to be really upset with me for doing this. However, Matt, you deserve this, and it's time for us to laugh together and to have a moment. You have served Mason City well, and you will continue to serve Mason City Schools well. In different capacities as we move forward together. And so I've read a lot about when you're a top performer, like one of these runners that runs about a 4-minute mile or whatever they do, whether you're a board member serving a 4-minute mile behind the scenes, it's also good to have moments where you can pause. And we're hoping that you can have a moment take a deep breath in this next season and plug into other opportunities throughout the district and serve and continue to be our teammate in moving the work that you believe in forward. So you have served us well for 10 years. We call it a decade of dedication. If you think about most of us in this room, think about us, anybody dedicated themselves to serve and volunteer at this high level for 10 years of your life, a decade of your life. I was looking back, Matt, at what, 10 years ago, I think the iPad was just a year old. So some of those, those things 10 years ago, a lot's happened in 10 years. And some of the things we just want to highlight here, we won't be able to capture everything, but you've hired 2 superintendents, hiring a superintendent. We are a crazy little bunch to nail down and hire, and you've hired good superintendents throughout your time. So yes, so thank you. I thank you. I shouldn't have said that. You've hired superintendents, yes.
Right.
And we've hired great teams. You've hired wonderful treasurers who have just been amazing, legendary, I would say, that have helped, and Sean being one of those. You've approved over 152 quality educators throughout, and more through board agendas, and you've graduated over 9,000 students. I mean, there are not many board members on earth that can say they've graduated over 9,000 students through a school system. So you've had an impact and inspired the next generation. A decade of dedication, also approving something that was probably one of the hardest things we've wrangled through, and that is the planning and just the thoughtful setup to make sure that we could reduce our footprint, save money, pay for a renovation without going to our taxpayers, and doing all of that along with the rest of the board members and doing that well for our community, and that master facilities plan, which was masterful, which we have people coming all the time to look and see how we did this. And we even have a school coming next week to come and tour and say, how did this come together? And that really comes down to the work that our board does, and you being the president and leading us through that time. And you can also see some of the leadership that you provided in not only difficult times with going through this transition, but as we go to the next slide, leading through the toughest time in the history of our world. Being the board president, leading us into that, handing that off to Charles in a gracious and just wonderful way as we moved into the pandemic. And you can see this picture of us doing graduation with a bus. I mean, we were talking about that today with superintendents, and they were asking, how did we handle that? And I was sharing with them, we went around and we gave diplomas to every kid at their home. And we had little pictures of our heads on the bus, like just like that. And you know what's great about that, Matt, is we have lots of your pictures still. And so we have games ahead of us. We have your picture might show up all over random places across Mason, just to honor you and the work you've done as well. You've also been just such a huge support in our Big Rock work. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that as a superintendent, like speaking to you as a friend, superintendent. The Big Rock work is near and dear to our heart, and I get emotional at times, so just forgive me for that. Sorry about that. But Matt, you've believed in it. You've been a champion of the work. And it's not easy work, and the work is the foundation of everything we do. And so as people ask, how did you continue to stay in school during a pandemic? How did you move forward with a levy at 70% approval? How did you get the momentum that you have in Mason coming out of a pandemic? It's because we had a foundation that we believed in, and we stayed true to our core through that difficult time. And you're one of 5 board members that ask the kind of questions we needed to be asked, hard questions behind the scenes. A lot of people don't understand that when we come to this meeting, they see us for about an hour, go through an agenda pretty quickly. But there are 3 hours before this meeting. There are 4 hours the Tuesdays, a couple Tuesdays before this, sometimes 5 hours and 6, where we go through and make sure that we get everything right and thoughtful, and you ask all the right questions and plan and help us think strategically about what we're doing. So I want to thank you for your investment in our Big Rock work. And then also just our pandemic leadership. Like it's been a tricky 2 years. We have seen it all over the last 2.5 years, and it's not always been easy. And believe it or not everybody's always been super kind, always with their words, but you know what the board does so graciously is they listen. And they believe in that, and they believe in the people here. And even though there are moments where people have, we are the leaders, and we are here to listen even when it's not easy. and to make changes, and you've done that with just a beautiful example for myself and for, I think, the rest of our team and our board. So I want to thank you for that. So we want to thank you for just your high-quality leadership. Here's some pictures just to remind you what you looked like way back in the day. So there you go, and just a wonderful swearing in of your time and touring around. You can see yourself in homes with Dr. Kisklein and how many parades you've been a part of, and we're just so thankful for that. And we also understand, Matt, it's not just you, it's your family. And so we want to thank Carrie and the crew back here, Ansley and Griffin and Ben, just for your just loving us in a way. Like, a lot of people don't understand that it's not just Matt as his leadership, but it's a whole family. It's a family commitment. You should be so extremely proud of your dad. Your dad is an amazing leader that we have all got a chance to work with. He served us well, and we're excited to see what he's going to do next in our district. So as you think about your life and you think about your dad, I want you to be real proud of all the work that he's given for 10 years of his time here. And Carrie, thank you so much, because I know, knowing my wife here, just the commitment that you guys have given to our district. So we want to thank you, and we're excited to get you plugged in other ways as well. So you're a part of the team, just in different ways. So excited for that. So I want to thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts as a board, myself, and our executive team and our teachers and staff. Thank you so much, Matt. I decided, Matt, not to tell the story about my first year when you hired me, and we were having a meeting one-on-one. You were encouraging me, counseling me. I pull up to a stoplight, and I accidentally run right into the back of your car. And I thought that was going to be the shortest contract of my life. And Matt was so gracious, came right back, said, it's okay, it's going to be fine.
I was so annoyed, and I looked in my rearview mirror.
It was me. I'm so sorry still.
It was. We got through it.
It was embarrassing.
And now my car is in the shop because I got hit by a bus the other day. So that's
Really?
going 3 miles an hour.
Bus?
No, not one of our buses. I don't know what we say here, but can I just say that I saw there's something about honoring of a board member, and I figured that might have something to do with me. And then I walk in and I see this trophy. glad it's yours. Glad it's yours and not mine. You deserve it. Because you mentioned 4-minute miles. There's not ever been a 4-minute mile in my life. Whether yeah. So.
Well, normally I get to clean up at the end of the meetings, but I'm going to use executive privilege here and go first, Matt. When I ran 4 years ago, I think you were the first board member to reach out to me as a strange newcomer, and I know that first time we met at Panera, and you were very welcoming and gracious, and definitely did not need to be, for somebody who is running on the same term as you. You were incredibly hospitable and open, and any questions I had, anything that I wanted to know about what it was like serving on the board, you were quick to help bring me up to speed and to give me everything I could need to be successful in this role. And for the past 4 years as we've served together on this board, you've been a tremendous mentor to me personally. I've really valued the way in which you go about analyzing problems, thinking through solutions, and bringing the lawyer mindset to this role. But at the same time, I have admired the genuineness and the authenticity that you lead with. I think you'd be a terrible poker player, but that is something that I think nobody has any questions about where you stand and where your heart is in this district. And I think the sign of an excellent leader is somebody who can leave something or a place better than where they found it. And I wasn't around here in Mason a decade ago when you started on the board, but I can definitely say with confidence that you are stepping off this board, leaving this district in a better place than you found it. So thank you, Matt.
I'll piggyback on that just a little bit. There is a particular trait, a couple of them, that Matt possesses more than any other board member, even more than a lot of past board members, and that is he is a high level of energy and commitment all the time. Rough moments, he's one to be there and pick us up, remind us of some of the benefits that we may be overlooking. Many times when we were in different places on a particular issue or subject, can always count on Matt to ask the tough questions and help us examine whatever it is that we need to do, make sure that we examine every detail of it and overlook nothing. And you only do that kind of work in that way when you have it coming from your heart. It is, it comes from a very special place inside you, Matt, to serve others. And you don't need to know you very long before that is incredibly evident. And as Charles said, this entire district and everyone here is better today than we were 10 years ago. So thank you.
I'd like to say a few things, but honestly, I can't look at Matt, and I told him to leave tissues on my seat, and he forgot to. So pass them down. But, I mean, it has just been an honor and a privilege to serve with you, and I have learned so much from you. I admire you so much. And you are such an amazing addition to the Mason School family, and what you've done on your tenure on the board will always be remembered. So I'm going to have to stop there because I don't know if we have enough tissues.
Well, I think the most profound thing that was echoed in all three comments were you're leaving the district better than you found it. And that is, there could be some periods of time, I know Marianne's here, that there could be people who come and leave the school board and, you know, that's maybe not a monumental task, benefited from momentum or some other thing. But it was highlighted up here on the slides a little bit. You had to get your hands around this place quickly when you got here, and you've been a steady hand ever since. And we couldn't have navigated through those waters without that kind of leadership. Portion of that time, big part of that time, sitting in the middle chair, but all the time, you know, fully engaged. As Connie said, you're always full of energy to help, not just in, you know, an official board capacity, but all around the district, which means you get to meet people and create connections that help give you context in the decisions that we're making. But I think one of your best strengths is you know how to ask questions. And those of us that have served, and those who aren't here that have served, and I'm sure Marianne can attest to, sometimes the hardest thing for us is to know what questions to ask, and that kind of comes naturally for you. And I appreciate that I've had the chance to kind of learn from your questions as much as sometimes your answers, and I think it's helped both superintendents and our treasurers, our staff, and others to hear those very insightful questions that often help guide us a different way. And so I also want to echo what Jonathan said about the family importance. The pride he has in each of his kids is always evident in the decisions he's making, and it's very steady too that he has a partner in Carrie that is very important to your own success. So none of us like it when we talk about how great our wives are, because it can come across self-deprecating, but those of us that are in the kind of shoes you're in know that you can't do it without that. And so thanks for everything you've done. It's just the beginning, just a chapter. And so we're glad you're doubling down to commit to this community and the school district, and certainly there to help when we can. So thank you.
Well, where to begin? I promise I won't go on and on. But a couple things about when I first joined the board. One, that little girl in the green sweater, not little girl, sorry, you're in 5th grade. Big 5th grader, big time MI 5th grader, was 4 months old when I joined the board. And so when I reflect back on 10 years, I mean, man, next week it'll be 10 years. Next Tuesday it'll be 10 years that I was sworn in. And while I'm profoundly disappointed that I won't continue for now serving on the board, I got to serve for 10 years, and that is incredibly special. Also reflecting on when I began on the board, Jonathan, to your point about closing down buildings and switching and master facilities plan, I'll never forget, I tell people, my very first meeting, Marianne will remember too, we were talking about whether we were going to add on to Mason Heights Elementary School. My next meeting, we were talking about, wait, we could probably actually close down a building. And so talk about Kevin, like having to get stuff figured out pretty quickly and get up to speed on what this whole school board thing is. I had to do that, and I had really good teachers along the way. And I, there's a lot that I could reflect on. Jonathan, you touched on two things. When I think about how I've come to love this work so much and what I'm leaving it most proud of, you put two of them right on the slides. You got to tell you about it, and I will too. But when I think of where Mason is now compared to 10 years ago, two things that stand out to me is the things that I'm most proud about, and it is our investment, our intentionality around mental wellness, recognizing that it is a crisis in our country, and Mason is no exception. And listening to our students, making investments in teams that wrap around and are intentional and work to promote and provide structure to allow for mental wellness in our district. It's just such a priority, and I'm so glad that we've done that. And I think about the best illustration of that. Two illustrations of that to me are my favorite. Is one, the Hope Squad, and I see Susanna Davis in the back from Grand S Hope. That Mason was the first school in Ohio to have a Hope Squad, and now it's everywhere because it is the right thing to do. And I'm very proud that we did that. And I see my own comic kids, the comic kid and the 5 stanzas are, I think, just the epitome of what we're trying to do in Mason is to not only have great academic success, but prepare, Coach Rapp, to your point earlier, prepare students to be able to get through life, to have the skills, to be empathetic, to be Ainsley, Ben, and Griffin, help me. Resilient, persistent, flexible, and there's one more, optimistic, right? I mean, that's it in a nutshell, isn't it? And we start now at a very young age building that into our students, and now at ME and MI, that language follows them, and they see those words and those themes reflected in their building around them. And I'm just really proud of that wasn't a fad, that wasn't a 2-year thing, and we didn't stop when Jonathan came on board. We intensified the effort, and so I'm just very proud of that. And then an inclusive excellence. I mean, not just inclusive excellence for the sake of saying that we're inclusive, but pairing it with personalized learning. The idea that we know who our learners are, we value who our learners are, we know and value each other's stories. That's the heart of everything in relationship, and without that, we couldn't be who we are or go where we're going to go. And so I'm just profoundly proud of that. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that were my favorite things about being on the board. I knew that Mason was a great place. We moved here. The schools are great. But until I sat on this board, I really didn't have an appreciation for just how amazing our staff is. And so over the years, I've just been blown away by our professionals and how you lead the country. I mean, you just do in every aspect. Our teachers do. We're not just top notch. You're professionals, and you take us places that other districts don't get to go because of our staff. And the personal friendships that I made along the way. I mean, from teachers that my kids have had to administrators and fellow board members. I mean, those are friendships that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And honestly, like, I think it boils down to that I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to stand in front of the staff, to stand out and block and tackle for the staff. We don't do it, but the role that we do have is to stand in front of you and provide that atmosphere and that place for you to be able to do that. And that just in a nutshell is what I'm most proud of. I'm not happy with how things happen, but I want to say that I'm really excited about finding different ways to stay plugged in, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not. This work isn't important to me because I get to sit up here and talk about it. It's important to me because it's important to me. And this is a special community, a special place. And I'm so excited that already people have had so many opportunities to talk about what that might look like. And so for that, I'll just say I'm really excited, and I'll keep seeing you. Not soon, I'll keep seeing you. And so thank you, even though this was torture. I appreciate all of your words and kindness, so thank you.
Well, we're just getting started with the torture, so round of applause. All right, this is typically a moment in our program when we take a pause, let folks who came just for the superintendent's presentation move on with their evening. I know we've got a lot of folks here for cross-country. Don't know if you guys would like to move along, but
no offense, guys.
No offense.
Seriously,
we will not
this
be
is where
offended.
you are
Thank
free to go.
Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Congrats again, guys. Well, are you going to wear your pajamas inside out and flush ice down the toilet and all that good stuff? It's up to you.
He was ready. Post it now. I like it. See ya.
This is a professional move right here.
All right, the next item on our agenda is our hearing of the public. We have some guidelines that our hearing of the public is governed by. One of those being that each person who fills out one of these blue forms to speak is limited to 3 minutes to share their comments with the board. A couple of ground rules. Anybody who does fill out one of these forms and chooses to speak during the hearing of the public needs to be either a resident or an employee of the district. The maximum amount of time for our hearing of the public is 30 minutes total, unless the board moves to extend that. The other ground rule as far as hearing of the public is that in order to prevent the disclosure of students' or employees' private information, the board does not allow any complaints about specific employees of the district during this hearing of the public session. It's one of these channels of communication that we offer our community, in addition to email, telephone, in-person meetings. So just one of many ways you can contact us. And with that, we have a few folks that would like to speak tonight. So the first person is Susanna Davis.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Galvin, members of the board, Mr. Cooper, and Mr. Bevan. I stand before you tonight as a proud Mason community member, a grateful parent of a vivacious third grade comet, and a lifelong educator. I'd like to start my comments by thanking the entire school board for your tireless dedication. You have helped guide this district through unprecedented times, maintaining a deep commitment to student and staff safety while recognizing the critical importance of in-person educational experiences. To that end, I am also here tonight to extend recognition and deep gratitude to Matt Steele for his 10 years of dedicated service on the Mason School Board. I have seen firsthand how thankless the role of a school board member can be. However, as both a casual observer and as my family has gotten to know Matt better, we have seen how his deep passion for the success of all students and all staff drives his commitment to this work. Matt is not one to seek the spotlight, yet his constant dedication has not gone unnoticed. From presence at any number of events highlighting student talent, to his tireless support of the Mason Schools Foundation, to his recognition of the outstanding faculty and staff in this district, to his partnerships with community organizations, Matt embodies the qualities that define a servant leader. Matt, your guidance, support, leadership, and enthusiasm has created an environment for countless Mason moments to occur for literally thousands over the years. From seeing a massive facilities master plan come to fruition, to empowering, supporting, and hiring innovative and dedicated district leaders, to bringing about meaningful dialogue and action through an emphasis on culture, inclusive excellence, and personalized learning, the big rocks, to ensuring student mental wellness, my personal passion was a critical point of emphasis in Mason. You have played a role in forever changing the landscape of this school district. And it is not lost on me that you have not done this alone. Supporting and cheering you on every step of the way has been your wonderful family. Carrie, thank you for sharing Matt with Mason. Ainsley, Ben, and Griffin, you already knew your dad was awesome, but because he was a school board member, the rest of us got to see it too. Matt, as you reflect on 10 years of service, I hope you can see the impact you have made on this board in this district. You are one of the finest school board members I have ever seen. I can't wait to watch all the amazing ways you continue to impact Mason, because that's what servant leaders do. They always find a way to make a difference. I know I speak on behalf of many in our community, and I certainly speak for the Davis family when I say your voice will be missed, and we are forever grateful for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Our next speaker is Kristin Lazuda.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the board for allowing us to come to the podium tonight and extend our gratitude to Mr. Steele. Just have a quick thank you here for wonderful Mr. Steele for your remarkable years of service to our community and our schools, our students, and our staff. From the teacher collective, your steadfast leadership has inspired and impressed us for the past 10 years, and it sustained us through these unprecedented recent times. Your smart, swift decision-making allowed us to accommodate our students and families while providing the best possible environment and education for each and every student. We are so grateful for your consistent care and concern, coupled with an empathetic and inclusive decision-making process always. Thank you. As a parent, I've always loved your motto of supporting and empowering all learners. You've continuously demonstrated a clear investment in ensuring that board decisions are approached first and foremost with our students, our children, at the center, always. Our community, our schools, our students, and our staff are stronger because of your time with the Mason City School Board, Mr. Steele. Thank you for your selfless service. Your positive impact and your legacy remain. We appreciate you and the wonderful Steele family, who I love dearly. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Ms. Lazuda. Our next speaker is Josh Stricula.
Thank you very much. I, like everybody else, wrote my comments down, but it's more dangerous when a part-time politician gets an open mic without written words. You'll never know what I'll say. Good evening, Mr. Galvin, board. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Cooper and his staff, thank you for allowing me an opportunity to speak. I also want to talk about Mr. Steele. Matt, I've had the pleasure of knowing you since our kids attended preschool together. I think it was only natural that with our joint interest in local politics, my amazingly likable and humble personality, that we quickly became friends. Since that time, Matt, I've witnessed your steady and calm leadership in every aspect of life. It's apparent whether you're simply cheering on our wives as they coach our kids' soccer team, or you're trying to keep me calm during a third grade basketball game. I watched as your fiscal stewardship, along with your colleagues, kept the school from reaching out to the community until it was absolutely necessary for a levy. I also got to witness that levy passed by a wide margin. And that was a testament to the trust that the community placed in you and the board and the administration. You successfully helped us navigate a global pandemic, one that we're still trying to find our way through, but we were thankful for your leadership that got us back to school safely, that are keeping us, our kids, in school safely. And I know, and we've heard a lot of other things that, I haven't mentioned here. There's things that I don't know about that we'll never hear about, because that's the type of leader that you are. You're humble, you're compassionate, you're caring, you're a true servant of our community. There are other accomplishments, Matt, that don't show up on paper but mean so much more. And that's the respect of your colleagues that you so obviously have. Matt, you're a good school board member, but you're a great man. You're a great member of this community. You're a great father. I have no doubt, excuse me, I have no doubt that wherever you decide to spend your time now, our community is going to be better for it. So thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your decade of service to the school. I look forward to seeing what you accomplish next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stricula. Our next speaker is Dan Mckay.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Dan Mckay, and I am a parent of 5 Mason students as well as a teacher here at Mason High School. And I just wanted to take a moment to publicly thank Matt Steele in my capacity as a parent and an educator and a community member and a friend. And I'm going to cry, which is weird. But it was on the news that I do it a lot, so there we go. It's not often that you get to entrust both your professional career and the educational oversight of your children to a true friend. But in Matt, I, and many of us here in this room and as the community have been given that privilege, so thank you. I've known Matt and Carrie since our college days at Xavier, so it's been 24 years. That's weird. First day of freshman orientation. And having known Matt for so long, I can tell you that Matt has always been a person of strong character and conviction, always. So it does not surprise me and did not surprise me that he's been so willing to labor for his community, serving the people, specifically the children of Mason, with ceaseless dedication. Matt, you're the epitome of a public servant. I've watched from the dual lens of a parent and teacher over the years as he has strived to create the best possible outcome for all people at all times. Matt has truly worked to listen and to serve all through times of financial turbulence, transitions of leadership, facility changes, and a pandemic, just for a fun extra challenge. I'm truly saddened to lose his work ethic, perspective, and care, but I'm confident that Matt will continue to find ways to support all students in Mason. So Matt, thank you for your years of service.
Thank you, Mr. Mckay. Our next speaker is Marianne Culbertson.
Maybe the tissues better come up here, but thank you, President Galvin, for allowing me to address the board about my friend and former colleague, Matt Steele. I wrote some things down, and hopefully it's going to be brief because I don't know how much I'll get through. First of all, I just want to thank you for your service to the community. It's made a difference. It was a pleasure working with you on my last few years on the board. I kind of feel like your board mother. I know your tenure on the board is not ending the way you hoped, nor I hoped. But you have much to be proud of, so much that was enumerated tonight. I so admire Carrie and your passion for education and your beautiful children, your respect for teachers, and your heart for students. You still have so much to contribute, and I'm glad to hear that you will. I look forward to your next act. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Ms. Culbertson. Our next speaker is Sherry Taylor.
Take a breather. Thank you, President Galvin, members of the board, Mr. Cooper, amazing staff. My name's Sherry Taylor. I serve in a couple of different capacities here in the district. One, I'm the president and CEO of the Mason Deerfield Chamber, where I've served since 2014. So Mr. Steele has been, I actually am here, obviously, to speak to Mr. Steele directly in both capacities. So, I've been here as a parent and in my role serving the business community since 2014. I've been in that position. And on behalf of our entire board of directors, our over 500 member companies, just want to extend our sincerest gratitude to you. The role of a school board member being honored, valued, and executed is difficult, especially as we've witnessed over the last couple of years, staying in that lane, elevating our amazing staff that we have here to do the job that we've needed them to do. That is the work that will continue to maintain keeping Mason as one of the most amazing cities in America. Businesses come where we've got all of the wonderful ingredients that make a community spectacular. And so one thing I know so thank you to Carrie and your amazing children. I think it's important in the pandemic. I think you were the first picture that I saw supporting a local business that had been shut down during the pandemic, when people started flooding their social media feeds of families supporting. And just want to say thank you for that, because we've heard a lot about your role as a school board member, and that's one where you don't have to do those things, but at a time where our business community needed people to step up, you did that, your family did that, and on behalf of the business community, those things matter, and we want to say thank you. In my capacity now, taking my hat off as a professional, my most important role is being a parent. And I've been very focused over my entire career of not letting those lanes cross. But when the pandemic hit, you start to wonder, what does that mean for your children with something like this? My daughter graduated this year. So being a junior and a senior during a time frame where you wonder, what does that mean sending our kids off into the world? I cannot say thank you enough for what you did to serve our students as a parent. Everything that you've done matters so much more than we could ever describe as parents. Those decisions were not taken lightly, and I just want to express my sincerest gratitude to you. And as everyone has pointed out, when you see a star, you don't let a star just fade off. There's going to be lots of opportunities for you to engage. We're grateful for the opportunity to have you in those capacities that we've seen, and looking forward to what comes in the future. But thank you very much for your service, Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Our final speaker this evening is Mr. Edward Perdue.
Good evening. I want to thank the board, thank President Galvin for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. A few months ago, I sent a letter to the Mason School Board supporting Ohio valued voters with testimony for Ohio House Bill 327, critical race theory. A few weeks ago, I had briefed my opinion. The CRT should be stopped everywhere in Ohio and across the country. It is my opinion that critical race theory is Marxist, socialist indoctrination to children and must be stopped in Ohio and everywhere in America, including the global community. On December 2nd, Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill introduced a bill Critical Communist Teaching Act, or CCT. And I'll paraphrase comments from Maria Salazar. Our future generations understand and learn exactly what communism is in every school curriculum across America. Our Mason community deserves to know what the Mason School Board position is on critical race theory. Is critical race theory being taught in Mason schools today? I think we all agree that Mason is a great school system, great community. We are very blessed to be part of the community. I want to close by saying I truly believe in this issue. It's not something that is easy to come up and brief about, but it's something that I feel that myself and also other members of the community have the right to know what the position is. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perdue.
You're welcome.
All right. That concludes our hearing of the public this evening.
Charles, can I just say one thing? Just this is the final. This is not a back and forth, but it's my last meeting. I want to just say real quick that I realized why I went off track and didn't end up circling back to this is because I pointed to Ainsley and started to tear up, and so my brain made me shift. But when I was starting with that was that Ainsley was 4 months old. We didn't have the boys. And so that was tough enough as for Carrie to have to be with just a kid, while I did this. And then 18 months later, those two little boys were born too. So we had Ainsley, who is still in diapers, and then those little boys, Ben and Griffin, who are looking like deer in headlights right now as I mention them. Hi, Ben and Griffin. And so I just, it's miraculous. It was always miraculous, the things that Carrie did to bring those kids into the world and to raise them. You're my rock, and I thank you, and I love you. I love you, Ainsley, Ben, and Griffin, very much. I just needed to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Well, like I said, this is the end of our public hearing portion. This is also a time in our meeting when we take a pause, allow folks who just came for the hearing of the public portion to move on with their evening. You're welcome to stay for the duration of our meeting, but we understand you may have other plans and things to get to. So thank you for joining us. We will let you move on with your evening if you'd like.
Thanks for coming, guys.
All right. Item number 7 on our agenda, non-district funded positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
I will.
You know you have to let me move or second every motion.
You better be quick.
I've never had a problem with that.
Item number 8, certified personnel, superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 9, supplemental personnel, superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 10, resolution for hiring non-certified personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So
Take it
moved.
serious. Okay, second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 11, classified personnel, superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 12, certified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 13, classified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just want to point out, when you see an item like this, it's basically when we have a student who has additional needs. We ask our staff and our aides if they would be willing to work beyond the regular contracted day to provide support, so those students have access to extracurricular activities. And so this is an example of how that looks on the board agenda when we approve that to give the support. Because one of the things that's important to us is that all kids have access to all kinds of activities, and so we do support that as a district in here. That's what's going on here. That doesn't always show up all the time, but I want to make sure that we saw that on the agenda. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 14, first reading, new course recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
All right. I'm actually, now that I'm
Yeah.
reading through this, I guess I
Yeah, no, I'll just, the first
gave a little
reading.
pump fake on there, didn't
That was
I?
good, that was good. Just making sure people are paying attention. Give them a try. The first reading for the course recommendations, we will have a second reading at our next board meeting. Anytime we have a new course proposed, Amy Brennan and her team work with those that are bringing those courses to us. They work with students, with staff, to make sure that those are appropriate courses. They bring those proposals through student achievement. It goes through an entire process. Once it goes through student achievement, it gets feedback there, comes to the board for first and second reading. We also added in an additional opportunity for our community to participate in seeing those options, course proposals, or curriculum, and to answer any questions that they have. And we're going through our PTO to do that. In most of our buildings, in our secondary, we're just going to have an open curriculum opportunity or night for those families if they want to participate in just seeing what those courses are and to ask any questions they might have about the content that goes with those courses. So I want to thank Amy and her team for going through that. So this is first reading, no vote, but then this is open to public. And so if anybody that's watching this meeting or in attendance would like to know more about this, talk to Dr. Brennan, myself, and we'd be happy to walk them through that.
Thanks, Jonathan. And similarly, item 15, first reading, new instructional resources recommendations. So we'll have a second reading at our
January meeting.
next meeting.
Yep.
For these as well.
And at the second reading, that's when we would take action as a board to approve it to move forward.
All right. Item number 16, action items, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
We have some contracts on here to support various students and different needs, but we also have responsive schools agreement on here. This is just some of the work that's already started. This has been going on for years, maybe even 10 years, I don't know, but it's been going on for years in our MECC team, and it's moved throughout our buildings. But basically, when we talk about making our big schools feel small and connecting kids and finding that sense of purpose and that sense of belonging, this is one of those strategies that just teachers look for different support tools. This is a tool to just help support our kids as they come into our buildings and throughout the day to just feel connected to the community.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 17, treasurer's report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
say again, I mean, one of the things we always try to highlight is the donations. This section that's highlighted, I mean, there's always a significant amount of money that, or items that people are donating to the work of our schools and extracurriculars. So we thank the folks, and Mason Comment Cupboard is always there. We thank them for that work and for people supporting it.
Well said. Every month we have substantial donations on here, and it's always impressive, and so grateful for it.
Thanks, Matt and Sean. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Bouchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 18, committee reports. We had a athletic council meeting last week. Jonathan, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, so an athletic council, that council is designed to review and bring recommendations to myself to bring to you, whether it's travel. And so we had one travel opportunity for our girls basketball team, and they go every year to different invitationals. And so there was one on there that we discussed as a group. We also discussed the draft of, we're continuing to draft and look at our athletic code of conduct. And so that team got a chance to see some of the first drafts of that, give recommendations. That process, obviously the board's had some input on that. Our team, executive team, will be meeting with coaches this next week to give more input, some of our student athletes and leaders, and then the week after that, and then also our some of our parent groups as well to give feedback on that code of conduct. So that's one of the things we did at committee this last meeting. And then we also go through the budget and see how has the budget been impacted this year compared to last year. And so there's been great positive movement because we had more, for example, more football games this year at home, so that helped us. We also discussed when we host football games for the postseason, what kind of, we don't bring a lot of money in for that, but it is something we discussed as well. And then we did have a bit of a conversation just about the future of facilities and what are some things that are out there on the horizon that we should just continue to think about as just a school district in general in the future, and what are the needs and how are those serving us now. We're very fortunate to have what we have, but those were the major discussions that we had at committee on Thursday. Yeah.
Thanks. Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Is there Arts and Activities Council?
We had a early morning this morning, and really our major action item was just approving Model UN's trip last year. They were planning to go for competition, and just had thought that they were on their way in the spring, and then things with COVID made it where they weren't able to travel, and so they're excited to be able to do some trips to University of Michigan and get some really good competition in for those teams that are successful. So we'll be wishing them well.
Thanks, Tracy. And DEI Council?
DEI Council met before Thanksgiving. It's been a while, November 18th. As we often do, staff shared a spotlight on our OKRs in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And actually, I'm glad that we kind of write down what the OKR, or the we list in this space that we wanted to take a look at, because it gives me an opportunity to just remind you all what that OKR is, and it puts it all in a nutshell. That this year, this is a goal in the district for. Each building designs and implements an ongoing year-long plan to intentionally build meaningful relationships and empathy in pursuit of learner belonging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who wrote that, but good job encapsulating everything that we're trying to do. We heard an update about some of that work that's happening at MI, and maybe I should put Ainsley on the spot and ask her to reflect on this too. But I know even through her, the great stuff that's happening in what they call LIFT, and it's a once a month activity, Ainsley, where the whole building takes time in the morning to start their day, and they're intentional in their wings to tackle a subject. Whitney Decker a teacher at MI shared about the impact that that's having and the work that they've done to get that off the ground and shared some of the lessons. And so I know firsthand that that's having an impact in MI, and so it was exciting to hear. Soroya Smith gave us an update on things that are happening in other buildings in the district, and then we also talked as a council and asked for feedback, and we'll continue to ask for suggestions on books that we should try to aim to have in our classrooms and in our buildings as we talk about windows and doors for our students. Like, what are some of those texts that we should take a look at and think about adding to the collections of classroom teachers and libraries and that sort of thing. So that there were already a lot of good ideas there. And then we talked too about what are the priorities for the council this coming year? What is the work of the council, and what activities might we sponsor and do in the community? And there was a really good discussion about what that might look like, and actually I'm really excited about where we might be going on that, because it's exciting because it seems to be more intentional, and I've reflected a lot on the idea that when I first joined the board, we had spent a lot of time, and the focus, at least outwardly, was really on celebrating our diversity. And I think we've shifted to a place where we celebrate our diversity and our differences, but we also seek to understand each other and meet together. And so there are a lot of really good ideas in that space. So that was our last meeting, November 18th.
Thanks, Matt. Item number 19, legislative update.
Yeah, there's a few things that we're paying attention to and trying to engage with our legislators. I was at a breakfast yesterday with several legislators around the region. I think that was yesterday morning. And just listening to some of their priorities is very interesting, because we try to, as you can imagine, sit in that room and try to align our priorities with their priorities and convince them that public schools are the hope of the future. And so that is a big job for us to do right now with public schools, is to continue to help our legislators see that. Now, our local legislators do see that very much and support that, but not everyone in Columbus does. And so we're very fortunate to have supportive local legislators that support that, but making sure that we support them as they go to the state and build that. One of the real practical ways we've been trying to get ESSER funds allocated to districts that are similar to ours. And so we did not get very much money or relief through that process from the federal government. They did give it to several schools across the state, but not necessarily ours. And you've heard me talk a little bit about that. It ranged anywhere from $0 per student to $15,000 per student, and we were one of the very lowest.
Well, let's say it one more time. In
Sean?
rankings of districts across the state by a per pupil number, where did we rank, Sean?
We were $250 per student. We were 602 out of 609.
We got 602 out of 609. So we have worked really hard with our local legislators, very fortunate that they're advocating on our behalf, and also with some of our different organizations across the state. We are hearing positive news there. Hopefully next meeting, we will have a positive update there on some of the work, and I can expand on that and what hopefully that will mean for Mason City Schools and other districts across the state. I'd say the only other thing that we're listening closely to is there is a state superintendent search, and so we're watching that closely, because that is someone that would advocate on all of our schools' behalf and all of our students' behalf. And it's just opening and vacant right now. And so we're trying to influence, hopefully, who gets into that role, that they would also have similar beliefs to what we have here at Mason City Schools, so that they would also be a great voice for us and our kids. So that's also work that we're trying to do.
Well, I guess that solved that question. We were hoping you didn't see that, and so you preempted us with the comments. So.
We're good. We're going to try to influence who's there, not go there.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Item number 20, administrator commentary.
I just want to also just express how grateful I am to Mr. Steele for his time on the board. His heart for kids and love for their teachers was always top of mind for him. It came through in every decision. When Matt started, we were at it's hard to remember sometimes, because a decade really is a long period of time as we get to witness watching your growing, beautiful family. But the district was in a different place 10 years ago. We were having to make really difficult decisions. things that were not easy. And Matt was one who asked great questions and who, along with other members of the board, helped steer a direction so that we could be in the place we are today, that was able to start doing and dreaming big and investing in the right things that have made such a difference. And personally, I'm so grateful for that. You said it in your heart, for mental wellness and for our Big Rock work, particularly with inclusive excellence in your work on Diversity Council. But probably even personally for me more, I'm going to echo something that Mr. Circula said, and it was watching who you are as a husband and a father, and I will also add as a son. During this time period in your life, you and I shared some things in that we added children and we also lost parents. And I watched your dedication to your parents, the way that you showed a way of how you give someone dignity during that. A lot of people in our community and a lot of people are walking that walk of when you're raising children and you're also dealing with your own parents, and you did all of those things with such grace, with putting that love forward, and you showed that through your actions on this board that is going to have an impact. But for me personally, I am so grateful that I've also gotten to witness you that as a person and as a man, and I continue to look forward to what your next chapter holds and serve alongside you on things like the Mason Schools Foundation, which we're thrilled to have you as a voting member now as on the Mason Schools Foundation, and whatever else you choose to serve.
Thanks, Tracy. Amy?
I'd just like to join the chorus of thanks and gratitude to you, Mr. Steele. I've not had the fortune of serving with you and for you for the full decade, but in the time that I've had, your compassionate, thoughtful, dedicated leadership has just been so evident in every interaction that we've had. It's interesting to see some of the history today and all of those really big picture elements of governance that you have been charged with and you've led through. I think about, in many ways, in me coming into this role and getting to know you a bit through your service on our Student Achievement Committee, and seeing right off the bat your just real passion for and joy in supporting amazing learning experiences for our students. Seeing you interact with students who were able to join us, like the energy that you both brought to that and got from it, so meaningful. And also always recognizing the adults, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the administrators who are behind that, and taking time to actually to verbalize it and to say it, taking time in these meetings to recognize and encourage people to take a true break, to recognize the weight that they may be carrying. It means so much, and so just really grateful for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Also want to just say, Matt, it's been an honor to serve with you over the last 10 years. And I just really appreciate all your effort, especially in our Big Rock work, which at times has been difficult. And I appreciate that you continue to persevere in that. And I just appreciate you didn't give up on that and continue to support it and encourage that work. And hopefully that'll be something that will be a legacy that lives long beyond you. And secondly, one little quick shout out to the community. I really appreciate our Mason City Schools community that continues to sign up to be substitutes or guest teachers. It is fabulous to continue to see lots of names go on the board agenda each month, so thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
I want to echo all of the sentiments here tonight, Matt, for you. You are an incredible leader. Your joy and passion and conviction that you bring to absolutely everything. Whether it's a community conversation, you come in, you're smiling, you're excited, you're in it to win it, and you've done an incredible job. I'm so thankful for the work that you've done for our families, for our students, and for us. Thank you. I cannot wait to see what you do next because I know it's going to be fantastic.
Thanks, Kristin.
I want to echo, people have spoken about Matt tonight and his willingness to be involved. I think, John, I think I shared it with the executive team, my embarrassment of this fact, but my first 5 minutes on the job, well, 6 years ago, we had to evacuate a football game. I didn't know anything about Mason. First function ever. And about that time, everyone's going one direction, but one person come up to me and said, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And I said, "Sir, may I ask, do you work for the school district?" And he's like, "I'm a board member." And I thought, much like Jonathan, it's going to be a short stay. I don't know. But I just wanted to say, Matt, anything you need, we're a phone call away. And thank you for serving not only the Mason community, but the Mason students.
Thanks, Todd.
Also wanted to share my thanks and gratitude for Matt for his years of service on the board. There's so many things I could say about Mac's character and his leadership and the things that he's brought to this community. I think the two that I wanted to focus on tonight are, and we've heard this lots and lots of times, is really a great heart for kids and a passion and a love for this community. I think those two things we have seen over and over again, whether it's the questions he's asking, the decisions he's making, that is a great combination for kids and for this community. And you've been a great asset, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in other capacities.
Thanks, Sean.
I got to share earlier, Matt, but being a leader that can live comic culture when it's easy and when it's hard is not, that's something that we can all look up to. And so thank you for your service. We continued, you've heard everybody say it. I've got a list already growing of the things that you're going to be asked to participate in. And what's great about that is you've seen it from the angle you're at, and you're going to just enrich the conversation in all those places. So super excited about that, and what a pleasure to serve with you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Item number 21, board commentary. Desiree?
Well, this is tough because Matt wears his heart on his sleeve, and I get teary-eyed talking about it. So I probably won't say too much more, Matt, publicly. I'd like to have a private conversation with you, though. And I hope we get to maintain our connection. And I have your cell phone number, and I'm going to use it because you've taught me so much. And I'm just so thankful to get to serve with you. And it's going to be sad not seeing you sit there. For me, and I know for the rest of us too. So I really look forward to seeing you in other roles, and I hope that we can still serve together in other ways.
I'm actually going to pull an audible here and jump to Kevin now.
Well, I won't restate everything, but I think the evidence of a good leader is when they leave, there's not a void. There's a team, there's vision, there's a continuity of direction, and while there'll be a void missing you personally, you can be absolutely certain that your fingerprints have been sound and necessary over the last decade. Others have said it, but it's really a unique board member tenure in Mason, where you started at a very difficult time. Not everyone has done that, and I can't emphasize that enough. And your continuity of leadership, your general demeanor, your attitude about things will be very much missed, but you can be confident knowing you're walking out of here with a school district that's in good shape and running well. And I am very thankful that you're going to immediately carry on as a voting member of the Mason Schools Foundation. That is a group of people that are very much share your intensity of love for this community and this school district, and you're going to be a perfect fit onto there. And they're very pleased to know they're getting a man that's going to join who has a history of rolling up their sleeves and getting into the volunteering and the work. And so thank you for that, continuing that commitment. And thanks for being a friend and listening to me go on so many nights. But I want you to know I was always interested in how you responded, and that helped me as well. So thank you.
Kevin. Thanks, Kevin. Connie?
this meeting's got a little more difficult as it went on because there was so much of it in celebration of a very deserving individual. And I'll just add one more thing to the conversation. I try to measure myself in my life, and I know that when I've gone from the earth, if I haven't left my integrity, and if anyone can say anything other than she was an honest individual and a sincere individual, I'll feel my time has been wasted. And yet, the words sincerity and commitment and honesty are the exact words that I have watched you serve this district with during your tenure, and I have no doubt that you will be back. And like you said, we'll be seeing you. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. And I'm going to go second to last here and entrust Matt to carry out the most important part of all our meetings at the end, the motion to adjourn. But before I give him the floor, I don't have that much to add, but I did just want to reiterate and reemphasize to Carrie and the Steele kids, thank you for sharing Matt with the district for these past 10 years. You should be so proud of all the work and all the commitment your dad has put into his role on the board. And Matt, I know I've said it before, and I know you know this, but as Tracy alluded to, you know, your parents, your father and your mom would be so proud of all you've done for our district and our community these past 10 years, and how you have been an example for what it means to be a servant leader. And I know they've seen you do that, both here on earth and up in heaven. So thank you again.
You're not gonna hand it over to me. I don't have to wait for the.
You got it.
I won't go on and on, although I'm tempted to, because this is it, guys. I don't want to let go, but I promise I won't. I'll just say that, you know, the election results were tough for me to reconcile. They're really tough. They're still tough, but immediately that night it was really tough to just understand, kind of just feeling pretty invested and engaged, and having a result that takes me out of the seat. But what I want to say, though, is that, like, one of the first things I thought of is, well, now what? How do I serve? And I was really pretty devastated about the thought that wouldn't happen. And I want to just thank people who have already reached out and entertained ideas that I have and opportunities to be able to continue to serve, and immediately pointed out that there are opportunities. And included in that is the Mason Schools Foundation, who immediately said, we don't want to lose you. And so I'm honored to now be, like Tracy said, an official voting member. I don't have to just go like this when they ask for a vote. I can raise my hand and actually vote for cool stuff. So I'm really excited and honored to be a part of that, and really excited to look for other ways, because, like I said, this work is too important to me. And I wanted to say too, you know, that night I was not what I expected. You know, rightly or wrongly, I should have expected. Elections are quirky things, right? So that's what I've come to understand. And they're not always just a value judgment by a community on the work that you've done. And I understand that. That night, I texted Kevin and said, I can't see people. Can't do it. And I just want to say that it's a testament to the friendships and the relationships that I made here, that despite that, 3 people showed up. And Kevin, Charles, and Tracy, thank you for that. I didn't want to see people, but I needed to. And I'll always be grateful for that. And I wanted to say, too, that Ian Orr is going to be sitting, maybe not in this very seat, but he'll be the one who slides in to replace my seat on the board. And I just want to say congratulations to Ian. I look forward to all the things that he's going to do. He's going to serve the district well, and I'm excited to see what he does and to partner with him from a different seat going forward. So I just wanted to say that. And I'm nothing but optimistic about the future of this district, and just excited that I have the opportunity to continue to be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Don't forget your most important.
Oh, yeah. Do I just move? I would like to move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
I didn't say yes.
Thanks.